Yokai Watch has seen a lot of success on Nintendo platforms. Not only that, but the series has spawned anime, manga, merchandise, and a whole lot more. Needless to say, Yokai Watch is loved and known by a lot of people around the world. Although the popularity of the series has waned over the past few years, possibly due to the super resurgence of Pokemon with Pokemon Go and the steady stream of mainline games, Yokai Watch still has a strong mindshare here in Japan. Over the years, the games have slowly started to make their way over to the West, but there still are some games that the West won't see for a while, or maybe even never at all. This is Danny from the Famicast, and these are all of the Yokai Watch games on Nintendo platforms in Japan. Yokai Watch, the game that kicked off the whole series for Level 5, originally released in Japan in July 2013. Initially, the game saw pretty modest sales. Around the 2-month mark in September 2013, Yokai Watch managed to crack 170,000 units. Not bad, but more success was on the way thanks to, at the time, the upcoming anime series. After the anime debuted in January 2014, game sales spiked. By the end of February, sales were nearly sitting at 500,000 units sold. Now, given the popularity of the series in Japan, Level 5 eventually teamed up with Nintendo to publish the game in the West in 2015. When it was all said and done, the original Yokai Watch went on to sell through 2.8 million units. As for the game itself, players get to choose between a boy named Keita, Nate in the West, or a girl named Fumika, Katie. After stumbling across an old, beat-up castle machine on a nearby mountain, Nate or Katie are introduced to Whisper, a friendly yokai that gives the kids a Yokai Watch. The device allows kids to find nearby yokai, and they're able to become friends with, battle, or discover what mischievous yokai are doing around the town. The gameplay here consists of exploring the town, helping people, and of course, fighting various yokai. The battle system allows players to have up to 6 yokai in their party that can be switched by turning a dial. The battle system was pretty interesting and quite different from what other similar titles were offering at the time. And that, coupled with the various yokai, it's no wonder why the game captured the imagination of so many. It got a lot of praise from Japanese outlets. Famitsu gave it a 36 out of 40, while in the West, reviews were a bit more mixed. Metacritic right now has the game sitting around a 76. Yokai Watch 2, Bony Spirits and Fleshy Souls. Given the success of the first title, Level 5 got to work on a sequel in pretty short order. This time around, the game was released in 2 versions, Gonso and Honke, later to be localized as Bony Spirits and Fleshy Souls. After losing the Yokai Watch and their memories of the events that went down in the first title, Nate and or Katie eventually get their hands on another Yokai Watch, and they also meet up again with Whisper. There are more yokai types, new areas to explore, and more. In Japan, Yokai Watch 2 was met again with critical praise. Famitsu gave it a 36 out of 40, while, like Western reviews for the original, opinions were a bit more mixed. In terms of sales, Yokai Watch 2 hit at the height of the popularity of the series. The anime, manga, and merchandise were all in full swing. A full-length movie also saw a release several months after this game and continued to feed upon the excitement. The game was finally brought to the West in 2016, in North America and Australia, and then in 2017 in Europe. Yokai Watch 2, Psychic Specters. This is a slightly updated version of Yokai Watch 2, and it hit store shelves in Japan in December 2014. It came out here as Yokai Watch 2 Shin Uchi. This version has all of the content from the previous release, plus a little bit extra. This time around, players have the ability to befriend bosses, there are new quests, and there are some new areas to explore. Clearly, this is the definitive version of Yokai Watch 2. Now, between the original release and this third version, Yokai Watch 2 sold through roughly 5 million units in Japan alone. This version of the game was eventually brought to the West in September of 2017. Yokai Watch Blasters, Red Cat Core, and White Dog Squad. Based on a multiplayer game found in Yokai Watch 2, Blasters features familiar yokai that the gamers have come to know in the previous titles. And the story is somewhat of a parody of Ghostbusters here too, with a few winks and nods along the way. This time around, rather than the standard 6 team of yokai, players are thrown into the mix with 4. Players also have a bit more control over the yokai, and they're able to input attacks and moves as they see fit. A free update later came to the game in December called Moon Rabbit Crew, and this added even more content for players. The game saw critical and commercial success in Japan. After a month on the market, the game had already amassed over 1 million units sold. The game also scored relatively well in Famitsu, scoring a 34 out of 40. The game was eventually brought to the West in 2018. Yokai Watch Dance, Just Dance Special Version. Co-developed and published by Ubisoft in Japan, this special version of Just Dance features various characters and songs from the kaiWatch series. Now, the game released on the Wii U in December 2015 and marked the first time that the series would see a release on a home console. There were actually two versions of this game released. A standard version including just the disc, and another version that came packaged with an extra Wii remote. In terms of content, what's on offer here is pretty lackluster. Only 10 songs, basically about 35 minutes of actual content. To be fair, it was kind of a budget title though. It might be for the best that this didn't see release outside of Japan. Famitsu still managed to score the game a 28 out of 40, and sales of the game here were actually pretty lackluster.
Yokai Sangokushi. The Just Dance series wasn't the only one to get a collaborative title with kaiWatch. Koei Tecmo teamed up with Level 5 on this spin-off based on the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, which released in Japan in April 2016. Now, the game is quite different from any other game in the series. It's a turn-based tactical strategy RPG. This time, instead of taking on the role of either Nate or Katie, players take control of Jibanyan, Koma-san, or Usopp-yeon. Owners of the game were even able to connect to various games in the series with this: kaiWatch 2, all versions, Blasters, and eventually kaiWatch 3. Now, doing this gives players special yokai that can be used in the game. The title went on to sell over 500,000 units in Japan and even got a 35 out of 40 review from Famitsu. This is a game that is probably never leaving Japan. kaiWatch 3, Sushi and Tempura. After the massive success of the second game in the series, of course, Level 5 is going to come back for more. This time around, the setting for the third entry in the series revolved around the idea of culture shock, and of course, yokai. The main character moves to America from Japan and had to deal with not only these crazy yokai, but also the difficulties with being immersed into another culture. Nate makes a return in this game, but Katie makes way for a new character, Haley Ann. While some critics in the West feel that Nate is a little bit too bland or generic, Haley Ann is a little bit more distinct and has some more personality. The addition of new yokai, a completely new region, and the ability to change between Nate and Haley Ann's story mode made the game feel fresh and a little bit different. Famitsu thought highly of the game upon release, giving it a 37 out of 40. kaiWatch 3, Sukiyaki. The third version of kaiWatch 3, and the version that the Western release is based on, Sukiyaki released in Japan in December 2016. Gamers in the West would have to wait until late 2018/early 2019 to finally be able to get their hands on the game. The localization changed the premise of moving from Japan to America to moving from upstate to an area of America where people had southern draws, basically moving kind of like to the south. Aside from that, everything that was mentioned about sushi and tempura remains the same. However, this version offered a little bit extra, with some tie-ins to a kaiWatch movie, as well as, eventually, new quests, location, dungeons, and yokai. kaiWatch Busters, or Blasters 2. Blasters 2 builds off the previous entry into this side series. It's basically based on more action than what would be found in traditional games. This time, the setting is a little bit different from the previous game. It's taking place at this location called Karukiri Island, and your crew of yokai are searching for treasure. While the game ended up scoring relatively high in Famitsu, a 37 out of 40, it was pushed back slightly to improve the game. Some fans feel that even after this delay, the game still has plenty of issues that still, to this day, have not been addressed. At this point, it's highly unlikely that this game will ever leave Japanese shores. kaiWatch 4. Set to arrive on the Nintendo Switch on June 20th, kaiWatch 4 marks the first time that a full-fledged game in the series will make an appearance on a home console. The game is coming out here pretty soon. We haven't had a chance to play the final version. I'm making this video a couple of days before the game actually comes out, but rest assured, we're going to be covering this game on the channel. Well, the kaiWatch series has seen some pretty high highs, and since the peak of its popularity back in 2014, 15, 16-ish, the series has been on a bit of a downturn. Perhaps with this new anime series that's coming out, and this new mainline game coming out on Switch, the game will see a resurgence. Only time will tell. As always, thank you for checking out this video. If you like what you see, please give us a like. If you're new to the channel, please feel free to subscribe. We got tons of podcasts, video reviews, special videos, and a whole lot more. Again, this is Danny from the Famicast. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you later.